Here we go, back to Israel.
is essential to the security of Jews worldwide.
America has never flinched from its commitment to the state of Israel.
America and Israel have a special friendship.
Jeez.
Gotta be careful the way I say this. They're gonna try to ethnically cleanse Gaza. They're talking about basically removing 2.5 million people from there, okay? There are some serious questions here, Patrick.
What's your reaction to seeing those photos?
Horrific. Last week, they even went to a point further than starvation called famine, worst food hunger you can get into.
Wow. Highest number of child amputees worldwide. I mean, it's just sickening that we're doing this to kids. What crime did they commit? We gave Netanyahu a blank check.
Would it be your impression that many of our politicians are under Israeli influence?
That's such a mild way to put it.
Mainstream media is been taken over by extremist groups. Most of what you see is either AI or footage used from Syria.
The IDF commanders we spoke to said they are the most ethical army in the world. They're the most precise.
Are we really gonna use AI
I know that Hamas would have their weapons depots
as a scapegoat?
There's a reason that Hamas operates out of schools and hospitals.
With Israel being questioned now more than ever, I went to Washington, D.C. to investigate the claim of whether Israel is our greatest ally and looked in particular into the influence of AIPAC, the American-Israel...
When it comes to the Israel and Palestine, I feel like we're just picking the winning side, that's all.
Asking whether Israel truly lives up to its claim
States
as the
never
world's
cared
most
about
ethical army, or whether
all of
we
their
are witnessing
ethics
serious
or
human rights
morals,
violations
whatever.
funded in part by our U.S. tax
We
dollars.
only care
To
about
look into
winners,
this, I
pretty
spoke
much.
with U.S. senators like Ron Johnson and Rand Paul, with IDF soldiers, a Jewish woman turned anti-Zionist, and one of the greatest conspiracy researchers of our era, Ian Carroll. I asked the questions that are scary to ask, and I do so as a proud American. Let's get to it.
Scary. I mean, every
scariest pieces that
everything that involves wars and conflicts would be scary when it comes to journalists.
Investigate the truth. So let's just start off with some ballpark statements. I'm not anti-Semitic. I hope all Israelis and Jewish people around the world are happy, healthy, and thriving, as I do for other people as well. It's possible that I'm going to be called anti-Semitic from doing this video, and that's not true. I don't hate anybody. There's not one person in this world I hate, and you can't tell me I do. What is the point of having a platform if you're not going to do something that's absolutely necessary, which I believe this is? So what we're going to do is use very American principles, which is questioning the narrative, questioning our government, and questioning foreign governments. We're allowed to do that. People have died for that right, and people will continue to die to fight for that right. So this is to freedom of speech. This is to investigation. Now, folks, let's jump into the video.
DC. Back to capital.
You got arrested right around here.
Well, inside in the Senate Foreign Affairs Committee chambers.
You're a lieutenant colonel.
Yeah.
Ex-Green Beret.
Yep.
Served this country.
25 years.
What was that like getting arrested?
It was a lot.
It felt right.
This is Anthony Aguilar. He served as a U.S. Special Forces soldier for over 20 years, and after the horrific things he witnessed as a mercenary manning the aid stations in Gaza, he has decided to come forth as a whistleblower, sounding the alarm for what he says are massive human rights violations. Here's what he had to say.
There are some members of our Congress, in the Senate and the House, that are compromised by a foreign government. I don't know what the compromise is, whether it's, pictures of them doing something embarrassing, if it's
blackmailing,
money, if it's promise of a few, like, hey, we back you for this next position. I don't know what it is.
I mean, that's the job of our
Israel-Palestine conflict
counterintelligence.
stretches back generations, but for
to
today's
face this
episode, we will
type
be
of
focusing
problems.
on the past 2 years. Let's rewind back to October 7th, 2023, when Hamas executed what's widely regarded as the worst terrorist attack in Israeli history. A coordinated operation used rocket barrages, motorized armed paragliders, and foot soldiers that swept through Israel, killing approximately 1,200 Israelis and taking around 250 hostage. Similar to how American Americans responded to 9/11, Israel reacted to the horrific carnage by mounting a full-scale military operation, with their main objectives being to rescue Israeli hostages, eliminate Hamas military and leadership, and prevent Hamas from ever again being able to threaten Israel. As of late, some people have begun questioning the Israeli official narrative of October 7th.
Was there a stand-down order?
According to IDF testimony from the Knesset, the legislative body of Israel, IDF soldiers claimed they were told to stand down from patrol.
I mean, obviously Mossad knew,
adding fuel to the controversy.
but you need to have a media
right-wing
for,
coalition voted against having a state-run inquiry into October 7th, despite polls reporting that roughly 70% of Israelis wanted one. That has helped spark conspiracy theories suggesting Israeli intelligence may have had prior knowledge of the attack. After all, Mossad is widely regarded as the best intelligence agency on the planet, and the level of surveillance they had over
they
Gaza
got plenty
is
of
incredible.
assets
Are there IDF
inside of
soldiers that are
Palestine.
purposely targeting civilians and just kind of willy-nilly shooting people?
So willy-nilly shooting, yes. The IDF utilize machine gun fire, shooting machine guns, shooting bullets at people to control the crowd.
An Israeli newspaper report saying that soldiers were ordered to shoot at unarmed civilians waiting for food aid in Gaza.
I experienced that with a young boy named Amir in distribution site number 3. And this young boy...
The problem with this is that there is no consequences. If there would be consequences, there would not be shootings like that, but if there's no consequences,
he and others,
what's the point of...
The Gaza Humanitarian Foundation has come forward with a
there should be consequences, obviously, but...
Oh, this young boy,
for example, Palestine has allies,
we scoured the
and none of them doing anything.
The boy that they featured in that is not the boy that I saw on the 28th of May.
So it's propaganda.
It is propaganda.
Just saying it's bad to doing, it's not a
GHF, the
consequence.
organization running the aid station that Anthony worked with, came out with a statement refuting Anthony's testimony by poking holes in at least one aspect of his story. They say the kid that Anthony claimed had died, a little 8-year-old boy named Abdul, is actually alive and well, and they have video proof of it, and therefore we should believe none of Anthony's testimony. However, let's also share Anthony's side of the story. He would make the case that unfortunately the lead reporter investigating whether the kid was actually alive or not, Mohammed Salama, was killed in an airstrike by the IDF when the Nasser hospital was bombed live on camera multiple times. This horrific bombing of one of the last functioning hospitals in Gaza showed aid workers and journalists being killed. When asked about this, both our politicians and IDF soldier contacts maintained that the aid workers and journalists were Hamas. Here's the footage of the men who died in the airstrikes.
I mean, they're just wiping the whole place pretty much.
So my name is Doron Kedar. I'm a sergeant major in the Israeli Defense Forces, today in reserves.
Here we go.
This is Doron Kedar. He is an IDF veteran of 20 years, and he is currently serving as a Special Forces reservist. He is the host of the Doron Kedar podcast and a strong voice advocating for the Israeli perspective.
Mainstream media is been taken over by extremist groups from the far left, wokeism, Islamist groups, socialist groups, Marxist groups.
In my experience speaking with IDF soldiers and pro-Israeli politicians, there seems to be a common playbook when it comes to tackling any criticisms of Israel. In my conversations with these guys, I've been called an anti-Semite, a Jew hater, told I've been thinking like a Nazi, and even accused of bearing responsibility for the horrible attack recently in Manchester, simply for asking questions that I think most of us have. But folks, I am a lover of all people, Israelis included, and these smears will not stop me from questioning what I see.
Most of what you see is either AI or footage used from Syria and or Iraq and or other countries.
What do you think the true number of dead civilians is?
That is probably looking more at maybe 20%, maybe 30%.
By war standards, it's still pretty darn high, right?
No, the opposite. What they will tell you is that Israel's ratio for civilian to combatant is actually much lower than the war in Afghanistan and Iraq. Basically, our ratio has been 1 combatant to maybe 2 civilians.
The case Doron is making here is that the numbers out there that were allegedly leaked within Israel are actually false, and the civilian casualty rates are not so horrible, and that these numbers are fabricated by woke/Hamas-influenced media. So we sat down with Dr.
I don't know about that.
a man in Milwaukee that actually
You
volunteered
ask him
at
up with
Nasser
a really
Hospital in
great
Gaza for 2 weeks,
term,
and we hear what he saw.
collateral damage. Just say the collateral damage, jeez.
In Wisconsin. Yeah, I was in June 2025. I was in Gaza at Nasser Hospital, which is in Khan Yunis, which is in the south of Gaza. I probably saw thousands of patients. I probably treated hundreds of patients. I actually did surgeries myself on maybe 50 to 75 patients.
The IDF commanders we spoke to said they are the most ethical army in the world. They're the most precise, that the minimal amount of civilian casualties
It's
are
part of
being
PR,
expended with them.
whatever.
What would you say to that?
It's
That's
bullshit,
complete
obviously. Obviously, majority of casualties are civilians. Like, they're wiping the whole place.
This is Brendan from the organization Open Secrets. His group is a nonpartisan watchdog that tracks the money flowing through politics, and he helps me break down the numbers connected to AIPAC. What is AIPAC, and how do they function?
They make contributions to candidates. A traditional PAC they are able to make contributions directly to candidates. They collect money from their members or other people who are interested in their cause and support their policies, and then they deliver it to the candidates.
There are members of our Congress that are compromised. That is a fact. Those that are compromised because they get the backing of AIPAC and they get the backing of Israel, their voices are amplified. You can't fight against that propaganda machine. It's huge.
So there's this Israeli commando I've been talking to, and I've talked on the phone with before, and he was going to consider doing an interview, and then he said it's pointless. Everyone just turning into an empire of Nazis pushed by Nick Fuentes, Kanye West, Candace Owens, and
Hey, shout out to Kanye. He was pretty much the first one to address the problem.
Wants to talk about, and I even say this to people, it's always, oh, you're taking my tax money. Shut the f up, dude. You don't know where the f your tax money is. You wouldn't even know where your tax money is, where you don't even read any of the bills. You sign all the bills and then you want to pay more tax for gas. You want to do all this bullshit. But then when something big happens in the world, that's where my tax money is going. Shut the f up. Nobody knows where the f their tax money is going.
Ian Carroll
I'm pretty
is
sure
one of the internet's top
intelligence
conspiracy
knows.
analysts. His critics label him an anti-Semite,
A regular
spreading false
civilians,
information
yeah,
about
definitely
Israel,
don't.
but to others he is a fearless journalist that
intelligence.
speaks on what some perceive as an extremely strong Zionist pressure on our government. Here's what he had to say.
There are 100 U.S. senators. Last year, 93 out of 100 U.S. senators were people whose campaigns had been funded by Israel, AIPAC, and the Israel lobby. 93 out of 100 U.S. senators were taking money from a group that represents a foreign government and foreign interests in order to operate our government on behalf of someone else. And they all work here, in this building.
This is Representative Ro Khanna from California, and he
Again, we got people who's getting paid in intelligence to prevent such things. It's called counterintelligence.
take AIPAC
So they
money,
should
according to
address
the website Track
directly.
AIPAC. Here's what he had to say.
It's too much. I mean, it's too much. All
Who's
these
wrong?
impacts
Should be
are too
fixing
much. I
this.
don't take a dime of PAC money, lobbyist money.
It's just
since
yapping
I've been in
again.
Congress. And I don't believe in super PACs. And so I can vote my conscience.
Well,
but if
so
you
nothing.
have people who have a particular point of view, in AIPAC's case, they're basically whatever Netanyahu does is right. That's their point of view. And they're saying, okay, if you don't take that view, we may come after you. We may have millions of dollars spent against you.
Now, ask any American content creator what the scariest subject to cover is, and the answer is Israel. Even YouTubers I know who support Israel say their channels were shadow banned for months after covering them. And folks, the plot around free speech thickens. News just broke that Larry Ellison, co-founder of Oracle, will be buying TikTok, a platform where young people can freely exchange
I think he bought it
ideas.
already.
No Israel connection here, right? Wrong. Ellison is one of the IDF's largest private donors, giving the army tens of millions of dollars through Friends of the IDF, a non-profit that brands itself as a non-political, non-military organization, but somehow also is the official U.S. partner of Israel's soldiers. Is it hard to trace who's getting money from AIPAC and how much?
It's pretty straightforward. You can tell, if their PAC makes a contribution to a candidate must report that and must report where it came from.
Can we see some of the numbers, like to what level AIPAC is funding our politicians?
AIPAC would fall under a what we call ideology single issue. So these are, groups that are focused in on particular issues.
So this is the top contributors for 2023-2024.
Yes.
So it's fair to say that actually the left was much more heavily funded across the board, and that if you break it down further to AIPAC, it was about, 25 million to the Democrats and about 17 million to the Republicans.
And you might have been wondering, who are all these senators that are taking money from the Israel lobby? Well, If you wanted a list of all-timers, our boy Joe Biden would be at the very top with 4.2 million during his career.
Is he still
But you'd
alive?
also find Hillary Clinton, 2.3 million. You'd find Kamala Harris, 2.3 million. You might think, oh, Trump's not on there. No, that's just because he was never a senator. So you'd have to go to a different webpage to find that number.
So would someone like Miriam Adelson appear on a list like this?
Yes.
Pretty much
I'm curious what
everybody's
her
gonna
figures
be.
are, because I've seen that it reported allegedly that between 100 million and 200 million plus to Trump from the Adelson family.
She was, in 2024, she was the number 3 donor, behind Musk and Mellon.
You know, Miriam and Sheldon would come into the White House probably almost more than anybody.
The Adelsons are some of the wealthiest Jewish billionaires in the world. Now it is the Adelson, it's just Miriam. Her husband Sheldon died. They have a long, wealthy relationship with Donald Trump, a very long and wealthy relationship with Benjamin Netanyahu, as well as with anyone and everyone else that is associated with the Zionist project and Jewish causes.
This is Representative Nancy Mace of South Carolina, and according to Track AIPAC, she's taken about 130,000 from AIPAC-linked groups. Here's what she had to say. No, compared to your colleagues, you're minimal.
Am I low?
Yes,
Okay.
which is good. Do you think Americans have a right to fear that AIPAC is too powerful and that we're, I mean, some
How
people
much
would
is
say
she
that if
getting
we're
paid by Saudis though?
No, we're not.
Because there's
And
also
I don't-
Saudis who's
You can't buy votes.
big
Okay, we're up
donors.
here legislating. Yes, we have to run for re-election. Yes, we have to raise money to do that. I've never gotten pressured by AIPAC. I've never said, hey, you have to do this, and I've never.
So it's not some
like-
insidious meeting in a parking garage
No,
where a guy with an
no.
AIPAC hat comes
No,
to you.
I would definitely not accept money from anyone threatening me, and that's just not a thing.
Pretty much, if you want to continue the flow of money, just start leaning towards Israel. That's the whole point.
Mr.
Just
Johnson,
trying to
Tom.
say.
Nice to meet you.
Good to meet
Thanks
you
for seeing us.
also. Certainly. Rep Hank Johnson is my handle, by the way. At Rep Hank Johnson.
First guy to do the good plug, so check him out, guys.
Yeah, check it out.
This is Representative Hank Johnson from Georgia, and he does not take AIPAC money according to the website Track AIPAC. Here's what he had to say.
The AIPAC PAC is powerful. The money that they put into elections can be influential. And so politicians do pay attention to that.
What is that?
How are you?
Come on in. Good. How you doing?
Good. Nice to meet you.
Cold
Tommy.
pink.
Tommy.
How are
Good
you?
to meet you, Medea.
Medea Benjamin is a Jewish woman who has been to Israel and once considered herself proud of Israel until her conscience forced her to stand against it. She's the leader of activist group Code Pink, and she's made it her mission to call out U.S. politicians for taking AIPAC money and enabling the destruction in Gaza. Here's what she had to say. Would it be your impression that many of our politicians are under Israeli influence?
That's such a mild way to put it. I mean, they are bought off by AIPAC, and that's not even the most important part. The most important part is they're scared to death of AIPAC. They're afraid
What makes
that
you say
if
that?
they become the top, well, look at what they did to Cori Bush. Look at what they did to Jamal Bowman, and you can go back. Look what they did to Jewish Congressman Andy Levin, just because he said some mild things about Netanyahu. And so these members of Congress don't want to be in the crosshairs.
We've heard a few times now politicians mention Cori Bush and Jamal Bowman seemingly getting pushed out of office by AIPAC. Here's what Cori and Jamal had to say on the matter.
I got a message from someone in the community. AIPAC said to tell you that they know you're not going to change your stance. They just want you to be silent.
They are very strategic and very unapologetic.
Now let's break this down by highlighting Jamal's story. During his 2020 term, he was critical of Israel, calling what they were doing in Gaza a genocide and being one of the first politicians to demand a ceasefire. So when he ran for re-election in 2024, AIPAC-related PACs spent a record-setting $14 million to fund a challenger to unseat him. For comparison, his 2020 opponent spent under $2 million, meaning that AIPAC poured more than 8 times that amount to defeat him in 2024. It was the same story with Cori Bush when she also also called the war in Gaza a genocide. An AIPAC ally spent $8 million against her, and she lost. So it seems AIPAC has real power to force out politicians they don't like. And when it appears to be lose your job or listen to AIPAC, allegedly, it's easy to see why politicians fall in line.
And so they either put their head down or they're more
Crazy how cheap it is
say,
to just get rid of the politician. It's so cheap, like millions.
Recess instead of being with my constituents.
Recently in the news, I've been bombarded by stories of U.S. politicians visiting Israel. I've even heard New York mayoral candidates tripping over themselves to say how often they visit or want to visit Israel.
I would visit the Holy Land.
I would go to Israel.
Yeah, I'd make my 4th trip to Israel.
Me seems a bit odd, and it made me wonder, are U.S. politicians visiting Israel an unusual amount? So we looked at the numbers. A 2024 study by the University of Maryland found that over 25% of all congressional trips were to Israel. And from 2011 to 2016, congressional members took 1,400 trips to Israel, which for comparison in the same time period, there were 88 to the UK and 154 trips to Japan, which are other countries that we also consider to be our greatest allies. And for Americans in the last couple weeks questioning whether their politicians are controlled by Israel, the news of a 250-person delegation to Israel could not have been worse timing. So does this mean that AIPAC simply outplays every other lobby in Washington, D.C. and should be celebrated for being effective? Or are we looking at something far more dangerous, which would be a foreign influence shaping American policy from the inside? Is it that bad?
Yes, and it's bigger than AIPAC. A lot of times, there's a couple of arguments that get thrown around here to the uninformed. And one is that Israel is not even the biggest lobby. There's all these other nations that are bigger foreign lobbies than Israel. And it's because Israel is not a foreign lobby because they're not registered. Every other nation has to register their foreign lobby as a foreign lobbying group. And that's how it should be, because that way we have much higher standards for disclosure of where the money's coming from if you're a registered foreign agent. And you can actually look into the history of when AIPAC decided not to register. And it was right when John F. Kennedy got shot in the head. And you can actually go and read the original letters themselves of Kennedy's administration messaging. At the time, it was called the World Zionist Congress. Oof. And they were saying, you got to register, you're a foreign agent, here's it, and they send the paperwork. And
this is what Russia do nowadays, by the way.
Before JFK got shot.
Why is it not registered as a foreign entity?
They're pretty big on foreign agents.
Easier for countries like that we consider to be allies. There are also a lot of people that are dual citizenship, so people think of Israel in a different way. There are a lot of American citizens who are also Israeli citizens.
Well, they're American citizens. So, I mean, if you're an American citizen and you're articulating a point of view, that's your right. So I'm not of the view that these people are not American citizens. They're doing everything legally. They're American citizens. They're lobbying for their interests. They're lobbying for the Netanyahu government's interests because they think that's what benefits America, and they're paying millions of dollars, which under Citizens United is legal. The problem is why we have a political system that has that be legal, and why don't we have more people with the courage to say, I don't care, because if the people are on my side, it's not going to matter.
A war in Gaza.
Can you guess where this is?
It looks like the Middle East. No?
Gaza.
Gaza, wow.
Pretty bombed to oblivion.
Yeah, it's very sad.
What's your reaction to seeing those photos?
Horrific. We were complicit. We
Looks
gave
like Africa.
A blank check. Look, the Hamas terrorist attack was awful. And I said that people who committed those crimes had to be brought to justice and the hostages had to be released. But that happened months in. Netanyahu has been bombing for 2 years. Over 60,000 people killed.
Reports out there estimate that anywhere between 70 to 95% of all housing stock in Gaza is damaged or destroyed. Listen to this take from Norman Finkelstein, a Jewish scholar whose mother and father both endured the horrors of the Holocaust.
95% of Gaza's housing is gone. Yeah. It was estimated that it would take until the year 2050 to just clear out the rubble.
I talked to an IDF commando, and if you look at the IDF position on the war, they are the most precise army in the world, and they are very fair in how they strike. In researching this story, I spoke with U.S. Navy SEALs, a Canadian soldier, and others who have served overseas. Many of them supported the IDF's claim that Israel is actually taking extra precautions to limit civilian deaths by risking their own men's life to go door to door to warn Palestinians before bombing their homes. By contrast, in wars like Iraq in 2004, my sources say that civilian homes were often hit without warning. And it's worth noting that in the Battle of Fallujah, for example, the deadliest battle in the Iraq War, there was also an estimated 80% 83% civilian casualty rate. And one theory I'm entertaining is that the
Jeez.
casualty numbers we are seeing
Collateral
in Gaza
damage, I
aren't
guess.
unprecedented, but rather is actually typical of urban warfare in densely populated areas, as several IDF soldiers have pointed out to me. The difference today is visibility, that this is the first major urban conflict where smartphone footage is uploaded daily. And if Iraq, Afghanistan, or Vietnam had been broadcast this way, I think the public outrage would have been just as strong. So to me, this suggests that the backlash on Israel isn't necessarily an anti-Semitic double standard, but rather, unfortunately for them, that this is the first time that the world is witnessing the brutality of war in real time on their phones.
First of all, they use 2,000-pound bombs. You can't be precise when you're using 2,000-pound bombs. Gaza is densely packed. This is just bombing of a city.
Even in this first picture, what I would call the good days, where there's still buildings standing.
Let's just start with one of the reports that's come out in the last few months with 83% civilian casualty rates. What would you say? Are those numbers accurate?
They're not accurate, and I'll tell you why. The United Nations gets their numbers from the Gaza Health Ministry. Who runs the Gaza Health Ministry? Hamas.
If I was an infantry company commander and I had 4 infantry platoons, I was moving into an area to conduct a combat operation where I knew there was enemy. And at the end of it, I killed the enemy, but 83% of the population was dead. I would be tried and sent to Leavenworth for war crimes.
If you're branding yourself as the most precise army in the world, I think those numbers say another story.
What was the last time we sentenced somebody for a war
Gaza.
crime?
And I don't know how you get peace in Gaza without taking out Hamas.
Like 100 years ago? Like, I'm pretty sure last time was
The
Hitler.
food they're eating is not nutritious food. It's aid food. Some of the food has fungus in it and has worms in it. Now they're airdropping these food pallets, which 3 airships equals 1 truck. It's all show. Sometimes the pallets actually drop on people's tents and kill them.
Imagine how many corruption goes through
Gazans have to
the...
go through a place where
all
no
of those
human
drops.
can go. Okay, where the Israelis
How much
have,
money is getting
you know,
stolen.
top-notch surveillance, tanks, drones.
Charity foundations
soldiers
are the
and
biggest
APCs with
corruption,
machine guns. They have to walk through these
out there.
corridors that kind of cordon them off like cattle to the aid point. Now you have American mercenaries with machine guns and grenades and tear gas and whatnot watching them. For every, like, for example, 10,000 people, there's only 1,000 pallets of food. So there's this fight to see who can get the food first. And then they have to get corralled through this exit, which is like, just like cattle, right? Exit on the way back out, and on the way back out, the Israelis and the Americans shoot over their heads to corral them out quicker.
Americans are shooting too?
Yeah.
That Hamas has taken that money. We know that for
I'm pretty sure
56%
Egypt
of
also
every dime
shooting
that's
them
gone to
too.
humanitarian aid in Gaza has gotten into the hands of Hamas.
So yeah, starvation is absolutely real. Last week, they even went to a point further than starvation called famine, worst food hunger you can get into. We saw 2 babies in the neonatal ICU, Zainab and Hassan. Yeah, they were at the end stage of their life. We were requesting baby formula to be brought in. And we actually told the doctors who were coming in next to bring in baby formula, and it got confiscated at the Israeli borders. I myself, just being there for 2 weeks, I lost 12 pounds.
Who says we're going to starve the people so much that they suffer that we're going to force the surrender? It's sick. And your tax dollars, my tax dollars are funding them.
That's how they used to do during Middle East, during
gave
sieges.
Netanyahu a
you know.
blank check.
Pretty
Israel
old
could
school
not,
type of
could
shit to do
not
in
give them humanitarian
medieval.
aid. Israel could choose not to provide humanitarian aid to the Gazans. Did you know that that the United States did not provide
Siege of
humanitarian
Gaza,
aid
that should
in
be the
Afghanistan
name.
or Iraq?
How many kids did you come across with bullet holes or bomb?
And Egypt is part of it,
So
don't
again,
get
I
me
don't know the
wrong.
exact number. For every 100 patients,
They
I
literally
would say
building a
10 to
wall around
15
the cause.
were kids, 10 to 15 were women, and then you have 10 to 15 elderly / handicapped, and then the rest men. Almost in the very young men, just past 18 years old, who are just the strongest person in their family, and they were tasked to go get the food, the aid at these GHF sites, the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, and they're supposed to walk kilometers in the heat with their sandals or they're barefoot, and they're the ones who are supposed to go get it, and they're shot.
Take a look at the writing in blue.
Wow. Highest number of child amputees worldwide? I mean, it's just sickening that we're doing this to kids. What crime did they commit? These are crimes, and there needs to be accountability.
One thing that really stood out to me was the Nasser Hospital, which, according to many reports, is one of the last functioning hospitals in Gaza. And there was a doctor from my hometown that served there as an American, and after he got back, shortly after, it got bombed twice.
Double tapped, some people say triple tapped. On live TV, they killed the rescuers. and bombed them. The very stairs that I walk, the very people I work with, medical students, journalists. It's a war crime on TV, but kind of the news cycle's over and we're past that.
It's not a war crime because the aid workers that were posing as aid workers that were Hamas, we had journalists that are Hamas, but they're posing as journalists.
This
and
guy,
Israel finally
man,
took them
this
out, and
guy.
knowingly that the optics is not going to look good, but we can't keep letting them use the disguise in order to continue.
This guy is using
warfare
reverse
against Israel.
psychology,
And then what happens
optics,
is,
really?
then you get that reporting.
He's playing
on
optics right now.
most of the mainstream media.
But again, the
will
problem,
jump
there's
on
no
the story
consequences.
without
It's just,
looking
there's
deeply
no
into
consequences.
the facts
There's
on the
nobody
ground
who's
and
getting
discovering,
paid to
oh,
punish
that
them.
guy was a Hamas person.
Like somebody
IDF
should be
soldiers
paid,
often call
like
themselves part of
police
the
is
most
getting
ethical
paid to
army in the
punish
world.
criminals.
But would
Same
the
way
most ethical army
we
be
should have
linked
like a
to killing
worldwide
over
police, and
240
there's none.
journalists? According to the
So there's
UN
no
Human
consequence,
Rights
there's no
Office,
punishment. So
242 journalists have been killed
if there's
in
no
Gaza,
consequence,
making this
there's
the
no
deadliest
law.
war for journalists to
There's no
cover in
crime.
history. The most common defense I hear from IDF soldiers is the journalists were Hamas.
I do know that Hamas would have their weapons depots under hospitals. They put citizens at risk.
Let me ask you about this.
Listen,
If you were in a restaurant-
let's just establish some reality, okay?
I don't want to get steamrolled again. If you were in a restaurant with your
I'm
entire
not steamrolling you.
a little bit. If you were in a restaurant with your entire family and there was one terrorist in there, would it be acceptable for anyone to bomb that restaurant to kill the terrorist if they also killed your innocent family? Is that ever an
How is this related to US?
So
Nobody
war
on
is
US
no,
is getting bombed.
Which is why you want to avoid it. Okay? The only way you end war is you have to defeat the enemy.
To say that they're using civilian grounds, I think is an excuse to invade these areas, to bomb these areas, to
I
level
mean, if
these
that would
areas,
be
to get rid of the buildings.
bombing on
Eventually,
US
have their
soil,
plan of
that would be a completely different
occupation and
consequences, right?
settlement And eradication of the Palestinian people.
So at the end of the day, it's all about consequences.
Is guilty of war crimes?
I think that there's definitely been war crimes committed in Gaza, and that he's the prime minister. But again, the legal determinations the International Court of Justice is going to.
I mean,
do,
Netanyahu is
there
fully
should be
backed
a
by
court,
Mossad
should be a
and
process.
military.
Every other
So.
home in Gaza has like stuff like this. This was gift wrapped in a house in Gaza. We found like hundreds of these, and this is like Hamas terrorist, right? T-shirt, okay? This is like what the kids wear for their summer camps in Gaza.
I mean, it's free shit. The fuck you
And this
want
is
from me?
recruiting, yeah? Their summer camp is recruiting for terrorism. Every home had.
They're
an
not killing
affiliation for
nobody
one
with
terrorist
those
group. Who is
cops
the
and
mastermind behind
shorts,
all these
man.
groups?
Like,
This right here, the Muslim Brotherhood.
It's easy to label Hamas as terrorists, and they've undoubtedly committed terroristic acts. But let's ask ourselves honestly, what makes a man grow up to hate another country? Because I don't think the Taliban despise Americans simply because we had freedom, but rather because we bombed and occupied their homeland for decades. After all, a freedom fighter only exists when someone feels they have no freedom. And when you look at the reality that Palestinians have faced for several decades, blockades, military checkpoints, homes demolished or taken by Israeli settlers, electricity and water being cut off, and entire generations growing up under occupation, is it really surprising that resistance movements would form? And furthermore, one could argue Israel indirectly propped up Hamas to encourage division in the country and prevent the more reasonable and democratic PLO from uniting the Palestinians. Now, this does not in any way excuse the innocent Israelis dying in the horrific October 7th attacks, but as an American who regrets what my country did in the Middle East since 2001, I do think this context is important to consider. You got to spend some
I mean, everybody can agree on the fact that Mossad knew about the invasion there, and they used pretty much those civilians as a cannon fodder for a media, as a long-term, tool.
IDF soldiers. I did.
I think
Did you feel
everybody
they
knows
conducted
that.
themselves professionally, or did you feel like they had a callous
Because they
attitude
had
towards killing?
plenty
I
of
felt they
assets
had a
in
very,
Palestine, the same way as we have
I
CIA
would call it
assets
an
in
inhumane approach
foreign countries.
to killing. When I first got into
Including
Gaza, 24th
Israel.
of May, I was at site number 1, and an IDF infantry squad was moving past the area. He was like, "Hey," and he spoke in a Boston accent. I was like, "Oh, you Israeli?" And he was like, "Oh, I'm from Boston. I'm here serving in the IDF." An American serving in the IDF. And he was like, "Oh, you're part of the new American food thing?" And I was like, yeah. And he was like, "Why are you feeding our enemies?" And I was like, "Well, I think we're here to prevent Hamas from getting the food." He was like, "Everybody here is our enemy."
What Anthony is pointing out is a little unsettling. There are Americans, not dual citizens, who go to Israel to serve in the IDF. I've personally spoken with 3 of them. And folks, to be precise, these guys are not active.
Pretty much, as a mercenary, you can do that pretty much in any country.
As paid
So it's not just
they are
Israel.
enlisting as soldiers in the IDF. Now, I can understand a Jewish American having a profound emotional tie to Israel, a nation central to their heritage, faith, and identity. But let's flip the perspective. Imagine Americans taking leave from their jobs in Boston or California, traveling to China to become Chinese soldiers and fight under the Chinese flag for a few weeks, then returning home to resume their American lives. Would that
A lot of people do that in Ukraine, for example.
strike you as
Like
odd?
this
To me,
whole
it raises
international
serious
legion
questions.
there.
Like, if these Americans are willing to fight for Israel, but not in the United States military, where does their loyalty truly lie?
Because a lot of people are saying we're committing genocide, right? Fact check. Look at the population
Again, depends on what
growth
type
in
of
Gaza.
classified access they have to what classified information. If he's a regular civilian, who cares?
Since
It's a regular
2023,
human
October
capital.
7th, and you'll actually see that the percentile of the population growth has grown.
That sounds almost unbelievable to hear given the numbers that are coming out of the conflict, that it's not people dying there, it's actually the population's growing and flourishing. While 1.9 million people are displaced, there's near famine and starvation conditions.
Yeah,
That's where it feels like, okay, we're getting propaganda. That's impossible.
That's right, you're getting propaganda. So these are facts I'm giving you, right? It doesn't mean people aren't dying.
In fact, now they're creating these humanitarian cities.
This guy is
corridors,
such a... He's trying to
and they
be
want
such a slick
eventually
talker.
get
Come
everyone
on.
from the north of Gaza down south.
He's
through
media
Rafah
trained.
into these camps
Too
where they
professional.
can come in, but they cannot leave unless they voluntarily emigrate to a different country.
And by the way, a refugee camp was just recently bombed as well.
Yeah.
When you look at that in terms of, okay, what is a concentration camp? Well, when you take a population away from where they live, and you take the population away from where they live in the whole country, and you concentrate the entire population into one area, onto one camp, that is a concentration camp.
How much are you risking right now by coming out and speaking about this?
Everything.
I mean, he's shooting for a political figure to become a political figure, pretty much. He's shooting for
my
politics.
safety, my future,
Usually what
everything that I worked
military
for 25 years in
people
uniform,
does after
to the reputation that I built in terms of being a
long-term
patriot.
service.
Why do you think the world is allowing this to happen?
Complacency.
I'm not saying...
Back in the
Israel
days, we
is
had
making
generals
mistakes, okay?
as a
Because that's the
president.
other thing that people don't understand. In
More
warfare,
journalists have died covering Israel, covering this war, than in any modern conflict. Has your feed been flooded by videos? A girl carrying a bucket, bomb, hospital, bomb,
Yes.
aid station, hit by an IDF truck, all those kind of things.
Yeah.
When we ask people on the Israeli IDF side, they
What
say
about
that's
media
Hollywood,
companies? They
that's
really don't give a
fake.
shit about the
It's wrong.
journalists.
I mean,
Like
I'm
that.
not going to
What?
defend every single video.
That they
because I'm
still
gonna
sending them
put up
there.
one video that actually was fake.
Pallywood, it's a funny concept, and it's very creative. But I was there for 2 weeks, and hundreds of other physicians, surgeons, pediatricians, nurses, healthcare workers, aid workers from the West, from America, from the UK, from Australia, from Germany, were there. And to say we are all liars and it's all Pallywood and we are part of that Pallywood is just obscene.
All of the IDF soldiers I spoke to brought up the claim of what they called Gazawood or Pollywood.
They're
or in
just
other
switching
words,
the
there
blame
being
to
a
be
lot
a
of fake
victim
stage
like
or AI
IDF.
videos used to turn
They always
people
do that.
against Israel. Here are some of those clips.
Too OP tactic.
And after seeing some of these videos, I do agree something feels staged or off. However, most would argue, as with any war, propaganda is used by both sides, and this still does not negate the hundreds of real and horrible videos
Yeah,
we've all
this
seen
is all
circulating our
bullshit.
feeds, where
At the end of the day,
refugee
what's
camps
gonna
and
be the
children are being blown up,
consequences?
entire cities appear to be bombed out. and
There's no
countless other
consequences.
examples of
It's just
humanitarian
yapping,
carnage.
shaking the air.
Iran backed Hamas terrorists have been holding civilians hostage for 706 days.
So this is really the crux of the conflict right now, according to the official U.S.-Israel narrative, is until everyone here is released, we will not stop, which I think is fair. If my people are somewhere else and they're being tortured or whatever it is, you want them back. There's no question about it.
I mean, these people were innocent. They were at mostly a
Yo,
music
what is
festival.
that flag?
The
Is
part of
that a
this conversation that gets
transgender
left out so
flag? Like
often
LG? Oh
is
my
that on day one, Hamas offered to free all the hostages. The only request was that Israel does not enter Gaza.
These people
Tragic
matter.
story.
If you are on the Palestinian side of this conflict and you can't say that these people matter, you have lost your touch. You've lost the narrative as well. I saw reports that there's testimony given by IDF soldiers that they were instructed to stand down between 5 a.m. and 9 a.m. on October 7th. Is there any truth to that?
No.
Definitely. It's an old tactic.
My unit, for example, was asked to stand down and not to
I
participate
think
in
Stalin did that during
and
the
there's tactical reasons for that.
World War
concern
II.
was
He
that
allowed Hitler to
we
come
would
back
have an
to
attack
just push
from
the
the north
narrative like we're getting
by
attacked.
Hezbollah and or in Judea, Samaria.
And I'm
if we
pretty sure
sent
Ukraine
all
also did
the
that.
forces and all the units to Gaza to thwart off the attack that was happening there, we wouldn't have any forces or units to send as a response to the north or to the West Bank in uprisings there.
And folks, the fact is, conspiracy or not, October 7th attacks left over
It's all
1,000
tactics.
innocent
It
Israelis
always
dead. And that bloodshed continues to fuel Israel's
works,
campaign to
so,
root Hamas out of Gaza. What's
They
the
knew for sure, like,
solution
come on.
with Palestine? You want to propose a Palestinian state. What does that mean for Palestine, and what does that mean for Israel feeling protected that another October 7th isn't going to happen again?
Well, that should be the policy. No October 7th again. That and not militarily eliminate Hamas, which is where Netanyahu's policy is. It means Israel is a secured state, Jewish homeland, democratic state for the Israeli people. Palestine, no Hamas, democratic elections, demilitarized, is a Palestinian state with the help of Jordan and
West
Egypt
Bank.
and other Arab
Is West Bank
countries,
gonna be
Saudi
the
Arabia, to help make sure that it is secure, that it isn't overtaken at all by terrorists or Hamas, and that it will
And it's
not
crazy,
threaten
like
Israel,
Gaza is
and
not
it
that big of a
recognizes Israel's right
territory.
to exist as a Jewish homeland.
It's
People
crazy
say
that
that's
it's
hard.
taking
Yes,
them
it's
that
hard, but
long
we have to work towards peace. There's no other
to fully
alternative.
Was there
capture the
another
territory.
American political commentator recently speak on podcasts about the disruption and dissent against Netanyahu before October 7th?
Yeah.
Who was that?
Charlie Kirk.
There's many young men in America that are actually questioning, and I think have decent reason to ask, that Israel is on the suspect list of who killed Charlie Kirk.
Which is insane. And where did you get that? The mainstream media that are trying to throw Israel under the bus into another conspiracy. They also said that Israel is behind 9/11. Of course, Israel also controls the mainstream media, right? Also Israel controls all the banks. That's why Israel demonizes Israel on the mainstream media. Make perfect sense, right?
one is it? Is it kind of what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, just
He's answering the same way as Netanyahu answered. You know, he's using the same quotes.
There's a lot of Americans that are starting to question
When they
how
ask
much
about
control
Kirk.
the Israeli government has over our administration.
This
I mean, you
guy.
talk about the freedom of speech. You talk about there's contractors in certain states that if the state boycotts Israel, the contractor can't work for them, or they can't receive aid money if their house gets hit by a tornado. What is going on?
So this is another very emotional issue, and you know, I'll get grief just for saying this, but boycotting something is an American tradition. Not only did we boycott the British tea, we dumped it in the harbor.
1773.
There were boycotts at the time of everything British. Israel's per capita income rivals Europe, rivals ours. I mean, they've done incredibly well. They're smart, they're talented, they work hard.
The innovation that's coming out of there.
And the what?
The innovation that's coming out.
Innovation from tech, all of that stuff. But that's also a reason why we shouldn't have to subsidize everything they do.
It is really hard to get U.S. politicians to speak about Israel or AIPAC. Many staffers shut us down the moment that we said we wanted to talk about those subjects, even if they previously said their senator was available for an interview. I mean, just watch this exchange on Breaking Points with Michigan Senator Elisa Slotkin.
Do you think AIPAC should register as a foreign lobby?
I don't know the answer to that. I think that I know plenty of people who think they should. I
It's
don't.
kind of a cop-out answer, don't you?
I mean,
Yeah.
I literally.
Oh, the
I guess
pressure.
I'd have to look at the definition. I certainly have had my tough moments with that organization.
deflecting,
and so you stop accepting their funding. You gotta get your facts straight.
Senator Slotkin has
Deflecting,
taken
crazy
$656,000
deflecting.
from AIPAC-linked groups, so it's no wonder she
She's a
dodged these
Democrat.
questions. And she's not alone. This is how the vast majority of our politicians are operating right now. And it just makes this whole thing weird, because if this is the right move and Israel is truly our greatest ally, then why are they so afraid to speak on it? It doesn't make any sense. We were just talking to a lot of senators' teams.
'Cause they
and
wanna
said, yeah, you
continue
can
the
talk to
money
the senator, but
flow.
one thing you cannot ask about is Israel. What's your take on that?
Well, I think for a lot of our elected politicians, Israel is a sensitive subject. That's concerning, because I think that when you ask somebody, what can I not talk about, the answer is, then you know who controls you. We can't talk about Israel. Why not? We give them our tax dollars. We fight in their wars. Is it money? Is it religion? Is it politics? Is it power? Is it a combination of all of them? I don't know. But in my mind, there is not a dollar amount on the planet worth turning a cheek to a genocide.
Israel is an extremely useful
Humanity
asset
did
to
that
have in the
for
Middle East.
ages, for
Both
centuries.
From a Western
Come on,
Empire
man.
domination perspective, as well as from a money-making, deal-making, political maneuvering perspective.
It's all
very
about
useful to have
power
a
and
nuclear-armed
resources at the end
nation
of the
that
day.
depends on us for foreign aid and for their very survival in many ways. They're working on our behalf.
Like I said, there's a lot of technology connections. If you use an iPhone, you probably have a lot of stuff on there that comes from Israel. And there is a connection in terms of culture. I mean, the religious foundations.
To understand America's support for Israel, you have to look at the country's deep ties with American evangelical Christians. You see pastors like Kenneth Copeland funding Israeli surveillance, while others like Greg Locke are openly calling for Gaza's destruction.
Israel should make the Gaza Strip a parking lot by this time next week.
It's evident that many on the Christian right fiercely
Wow.
defend Israel, and it's worth asking why.
Jeez
One theory is
Louise.
because evangelicals interpret biblical prophecy to mean Israel's survival is directly tied to the second coming of Christ. They take verses like Genesis 12:3, Ezekiel 37, and Revelation 16 to generally conclude that the end times will be centered around a battle for Jerusalem. So for many of these evangelicals, supporting Israel is not just a political stance, but it is a way of aligning with what they believe is God's unfolding plan for history. Every president in recent memory, from Obama to Bush to Trump to Clinton, says Israel is our greatest ally. Why do you think they say that?
Israel has been a staunch ally in the Middle East. They continue to be that way. But what has happened with the state of Israel is it has come under the control of a right-wing extremist who's not interested in peace. And that has led this country to where it is now committing genocide.
Are they our asset, or are we theirs, or a combination?
Isn't that the question? The Zionists would say that it's a partnership, right? The
I
Zionists
think
would say
Israel is our asset because Americans are not getting killed there massively. It's the like Palestinians and Israelis who's getting killed there. So, you know, who's getting bombed? The land of Israel, not the land of US. So
that we love Israel and Israel loves us and we support each other and we both promote Western values and we're
at the end of the day, we're not getting bombed.
Democracy in the Middle East, right? Sort of. Assets are relationships based on manipulation, coercion, control, inherently. Allies is a relationship built on friendship and shared.
CIA would have different definition. Who's getting killed at the end of the day if there's some mistakes being done? That's the asset. Because, for example, CIA asset usually is getting the one who's getting killed, not the CIA officer. So that's why we have assets.
Shared growth.
Because asset can be killed, officer cannot be killed.
Is a word that I would not use
Let's have
to describe
intelligence.
Israel. Do allies
Describe,
spy on each other
assets.
secretly? Maybe. Do allies spy on the terrorists that conducted 9/11 and then not tell you what they're seeing? Maybe. Do allies send Jeffrey Epstein into the White House 17 times
Hey,
to
release the files,
apparently
man.
develop a relationship with the President of the United States and then probably blackmail him? Definitely not.
And let's just say we do want to be allies with Israel. Are we not able to hold them to standards that we should hold every other country to for war? Yeah, war is ugly. I get that. And you got to take out what they view as the bad guys.
Standard. What standard are we even pushing?
If,
what is
if you were taking them out specifically.
As Americans, what do we want in our legacy? We want to be honorable people who defended the voiceless, who defended.
We got only one
the downtrodden.
standard, is the
That's kind
profit
of our
for
story.
US. That's
We're
the
always
only
rooting
standard
for
we
the
have.
underdog.
Like,
And then when it comes to this genocide, we are aiding and abetting the eradication of civilians. And I think us American citizens want the best for people, for humanity.
Yeah.
One big thing Americans need to think about as we continue to fund Israel and stand by during the destruction of Gaza is this.
CIA would argue on that.
Is our support of them helping us or hurting us on the world stage? Can we honestly say that backing Israel is winning us allies, or is it isolating us and turning much of the global community against the United States? Because at some point, we have to ask whether our loyalty to one nation is costing us the respect of the rest of the world.
The thing that makes conversation about Israel so complicated is that we are
crazy
having
word,
this conversation inside of an information war. We are in the nexus of one of the largest propaganda campaigns the world has ever known, because there is an entire nation's future on the line. And so the first thing you need to understand in order to understand anything about the Israel conversation is that Israel knows that winning the hearts and minds of the American people is the most important victory that they can possibly have on the battlefield. And they spend billions of dollars targeting American minds through politics, through media, through brands, through celebrities, through every piece of messaging that they can possibly use. Because if America starts to genuinely question our relationship with Israel in any meaningful way, Israel has to rewrite their entire playbook of how they do what they do and what their goal is.
Folks, the truth is this is a very complicated issue that would take an entire college course or hundreds of podcasts, I feel like, to really understand what we're talking about. So this would just be the tip of the iceberg, a springboard for you to start your own investigation. But I want to empower you, the viewer. You also are a journalist in a way, or an investigator. When you speak with your friends, when you look up things online, you are also discovering the truth for yourself. So take nothing I say as the truth. Figure it out for yourself. But hopefully this points us in the right direction to ask questions that a lot of us feel deep in our gut, like something is off here, something is wrong here, and I will not be intimidated into not asking questions. After all, I'm a goddamn American. I feel fiercely proud to do this because so many people sacrificed their lives that we have this freedom. So may we always have it, or may we fight for it. Love you guys. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah, it was nice. It was nice. But again, my end point for this one is US is just picking the winning side. And at the end of the day, Israel is our asset, not we. Like, not the opposite way, because US soil is not getting bombed. Israel soil is getting bombed. Our soldiers are not getting killed. Israel soldiers are getting killed. So there's that. At the end of the day, it's all about power and resources. Like, if you're gonna say otherwise, it's just hypocrisy, man.